Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to resize and crop images using the ImageKit.io. As you can see, this is what we are going to build. Really simple. As you can see, we can change the width of the image, we can change the height, we can change the aspect ratio for the image right here. We can change the path resize, as you can see right here. I can crop it, force crop, and extra crop. There's a lot of things that I learned in this video. And also, as you can see, what happened in here is this image is basically come from the server. Let me show you right here. As you can see, the image here, it just come from the server. It's not something that I try to manipulate on the UI, right? This is basically the image that come from the server. If I click this image and open image in new tab, as you can see, this is that I have, right? The image is come from the server. So that's the beauty. So instead of render all the whole original image, we can just render the part that we need on our application, right? So in this case, if you want to something like this, just using this extra crop strategy, it will get the image like this from the server. So that's we are going to learn in this video. I hope this is going to be excited. So let's get started. So let's first generate brand new Next.js application, use create next app. And for the app name, I'm going to do image-demo, ImageKit-demo. So for TypeScript, I'm going to do yes, then yes, Talent CSS, yes, source directory, I'm going to do no, app router, yes, turbo pack, yes, import alias, just say no. All right, great. So now let's cd into the ImageKit-demo folder, cd ImageKit demo, and then open inside Visual Studio Code. So first I'm going to create another component file. So let's do on the app folders, I'm going to do component folder, components folder, and inside that we have ImageKit-demo.tsx file. So let's do RFC and change the component name into ImageKit demo. And then we need to just import the component into the page.tsx right here into the home component. So let's try to import that in here. So I'm going to do ImageKit demo like this. And then let's try to run the app just by running npm run dev. Here we go. It will open the localhost 3000. Let's take a look. I'm going to open that. Let me just click this localhost 3000. And then we should see the ImageKit demo text on the browser, just like this. Simple. So in here, what I'm going to do first is let's just create the simple UI. So let's do first, I'm going to wrapping everything inside this class name. Minimal height, I'm going to set that to screen, background gray, and padding to 6. And then inside that, I have another div. This is basically kind of like container class. So I'm going to do class name, maximal width. I'm going to set it to 4XL and the MX auto to make this maximal width to the center. And then here I'm going to put the title inside the heading 1 tag. So let's put that like this. So as you can see, we have this heading 1 with tag simple ImageKit demo. So this is what we have. Really simple. So under that, in here, I'm going to do div and with class name, display grid and gap to 8. So basically inside this gap 8, I have to another div. So first is going to be the controls. So I'm going to put a div right here. So let's do div. And then also we have another div. So I'm going to call this, let's say image display. So let's put another div as well. So in this div control, I'm going to add class name, call background white, padding 6, rounded large, and add shadow. And inside that, I'm going to put the heading 2. So this heading 2 is basically have text XL, font semi-bold, and margin bottom to 4. Let's take a look. As you can see, we have this transformation. Great. So under that, I'm going to put the preset option. So let's do here, comment that, let's say preset options, right? So this is basically the mapping from the array value. So first I'm going to wrap that inside the div that have this class name, space y2, 2, and then margin bottom. I'm going to setting that to 6. So inside in here, basically I have preset.map. Let's do preset.map. So you don't have that preset value, right? So let's create that preset. So I'm going to create preset array on the top right here. So I think I'm going to create that outside this component. So let's do cons preset set equals to an array like this. So first I just want to paste these 3 objects. As you can see, we have the original, the value is empty string. We have label width 200 pixel, and the value is less tr colon width to 200. And then we also have height 200 pixel, the value is tr colon height dash 200. So now let's take a look how we can render that preset array. So in here, as you can see, we just grab that, and I just want to copy and paste basically. Here we go. So as you can see, we have this preset.map, and then grab the individual preset, and then here we have the label. This label is wrapping the input and span basically. So as you can see on this input, the type is going to be radio and the name is preset, and the value should become from the preset.value, right? So let's try to save this and try to see what we have. As you can see, we have this input with type radio. So let's try to store the value into the state so we can play around with the value. So first I'm going to create a state called selected preset like this, and use state on the top right here. Because we use state, of course we are going to change this component to the client component. So I'm going to set the check. It should be the selected preset, it's equal to preset.value. As you can see, by default, selected preset is empty string, and then we know the original by default have value empty string. So we expected this original should be have check by default. So let's try to refresh, and as you can see, if I refresh, we still get this original is check by default. We get this error because we don't handle the on change basically. So let's try to handle that down here. So I'm going to do on change that equals to handle preset change and send the preset value. So let's create this handle preset change function. So what I'm going to do, let's scroll up and then let's just create this handle preset change function. Let's grab the preset. As you can see, the preset should have type label string and value string as well. Just match with this preset array. And then as you can see, it just returned this one right here, set selected preset to the preset.value. So every time I change, of course, the selected preset should have the value. Let's try to console log that. And then if I go back in here, let's try to inspect. So as you can see, if I go to width, now we have this tr width 200. If I change that to height, as you can see, we also have that value. And by default is of course empty string. So next, let's try to install the ImageKit package. Let's go back to documentation of the ImageKit, and then I'm going to use npm. So let's try to copy this one, copy that, go back to the terminal, and then let's try to hit enter, npm install add imagekit/next. And then after that, we are going to get all the environment variable that we need into make sure that the ImageKit is running on our Next.js application. So let's try to click this dashboard. Just make sure you create account. And then in here, I believe I can just scroll it down to developer option maybe. And then as you can see here, basically we have all that we need. URL endpoint, public key, and the private key. So let's try to store all of that into the env file. So I'm going to create the env file. So let's create a .env on the root. So I'm going to create 3 environment variable: next public ImageKit URL endpoint, ImageKit public key, and ImageKit private key. Let's go back, and this is basically the URL endpoint. I'm going to copy that and then just paste that right here. And also for the ImageKit public key, I'm going to copy this one right here, copy that, and just paste that like so. And for the private key, I'm going to click this one. And of course, I have to put my password, submit that, and then just copy the value, just paste that like this. So now let's take a look how we can render the image into the Next.js application. Let's go back to documentation, and as you can see down here, if I scroll down, we can use image component from the add ImageKit/next. So let's try to just copy everything in here, copy that, and go back to ImageKit demo, and then just put that inside this div right here. And of course, we have to import the image from the add ImageKit/next, just like this. And for the URL endpoint, I'm going to make sure that we get that from the environment variable. So we can do process.env and then dot, just make sure we get this name right here, next public ImageKit URL endpoint. Copy that and just paste that like this. And for the source, let's try to go back to media library on my dashboard in ImageKit.io. As you can see, we have a couple image and video in here. If you want to add image, just click this right here. You can upload that. So let's try to just render this face right here. So inside the source, what I'm going to do, let's say face.jpg, just like this. The width and height is 500. Let's try to see what we have. As you can see, the image is just render. If I refresh, it's still right here. So anyway, if you want to just render image or a video, you don't have to use any public key or private key. Just use the public image URL endpoint and that just works. But if you want to have another functionality like upload image, definitely you have to use this public key and private key, right? As you can see, the way this image render is not same with the width and height from this image component. As you can see in here, the width props is 500 and the height props is 500. It should be square, right? But the image render is not square. So basically the width and height do not change how the image will actually render on the screen. But this is just used to define the aspect ratio and help prevent layout shift while the image is loading. The real size of the image is controlled by CSS, right? It's not controlled by width and height. So let's try to put a class name. For example, I'm going to do width, let's say 600 pixel. And also I'm going to put the height into, let's try to put 600 pixel as well. So we make sure now it should be square, right? Let's try to save that and let's take a look what we have. As you can see, now the image is square, but it's not perfect aspect ratio because it's just squeeze the image because it should be matched with this class name right here. So basically you can use width and height inside the image component or putting that on the div and just put the width full into the image component. Let me show you. So here I'm going to create another div that have this class name. So I'm going to cut this class name and then paste that to this div. And then wrapping this image right here with the class name. Let me put class name. Width I'm going to do full and height I'm going to do full. And also I'm going to set this to object cover. And then rounded, I'm going to do large like this. So now this image still follow the parent, which is this width right here. As you can see, it's look like this. So now it's more better because we're using object cover basically. If I remove that, it should be same like we see before. So for styling, I just want to copy and paste this class name. And then inside that, I have another heading. This is basically heading 2. So I'm going to copy and paste that like this. Let's try to see the result. As you can see, this is the preview of the text. And as you can see, this is the result. Okay, great. So now we have the UI and let's try to working with the functionality because I'm going to show you. Let me go back to the documentation on the transform and adapt right here. Let's click the image transformation and click the resize and crop. So basically I'm going to show you everything in here. So how we can change the width, how we can change the height and etc. So before we dive into the resize and crop images, I want to show you what the important thing in here. As you can see, this is the project, right? So if I inspect and then let's take a look, I'm going to click this image right here. So basically what happened is we get image from the server is have this width and height. So the intrinsic size is basically the original size image from the server. And we render that as a 600 times 600. That's what we're doing on the class name right here. But we get the data from the server is 1080 times 720 pixel. That's why the image kind of like a squeeze, right? So what I'm going to show you in this video is how we can change the intrinsic size from the original image. So let me try to change the width into maybe like 200 pixel. The way we do that is we can put the tr colon w-200. So let's try to see. As you can see here, the original is 1080, right? Let's try to change that. So here we can do like slash dr colon width. I'm going to do 200, for example. Let's try to save that. And then I'm going to make sure that we refresh the browser and then click the image. So now as you can see, the intrinsic size is 200 pixel. That means we get the original image from the server is 200 pixel width. Right, and the render size is 600. That's why now the image kind of like blur because we have small image from the server and we want the image is bigger on the UI. So that's why we have the blur image right here. So it's better if we have same size from the original image into the UI. So just make sure here, for example, I'm gonna change that to 200 pixel for the width, and height I'm gonna change that to 133 pixel. I'm gonna change that, and let's try to save. And as you can see, this basically the image should be look like. So now let's try to put the selected preset on the source. So right here we have the selected preset right on the state, and then I like to putting that on the source props right here. So I'm gonna paste that on right here. As you can see, it is dynamic from the state and slash any file image you want. So let's try to see into the inspect and then go to network. Let's try to just clean everything and just check this disable cache, right? So let's try to change the width to 200 pixel. As you can see, we have this image right here. If I click that, just make sure we have this DR colon with 200, which is great. If I click the height, as you can see now, the height is also should be changed, DR height 200. All right, it works. So let's try to also change the width and height from this parent of this image as well. The way we change the width and height in this class name is pretty simple. The first thing is we're going to create state on the top right here. I'm going to give a name display width and display height. And also, as you can see here, by default is auto. And let's scroll down, and then for the parent of this image component, which is in this class name, I'm going to remove that. I'm going to give a class name maximal width to full, and then this style that have width and height, and then put the display width and display height. The reason I use style props is because this is going to be dynamic value, right? It's going to be changed every time I change the input field right here. So that's why I put that on the style props. And then I also want to change the preset in here. The width is, I'm going to change that to, for example, 500 pixel, because 200 is too small. And then in here, I'm going to add width. So let's do width into, let's try to say 500. And the height, I'm going to make sure that the height should be auto, that follow the aspect ratio from the original image. And also this is height, right? So that's why I'm going to create height as well in here. And the value is 500. Just make sure this is lowercase, just like this. So next, let's try to run the set display width and set display height inside the handle preset change function. So I just want to paste that right here. As you can see, it's basically check if the preset.width have a value using this format right here with px, and also the height as well, and or just put auto. And then here we have this error because we don't have width and height on this type right here. So I just want to paste this type right here. Width is basically optional, that have string type. And here we go, we good to go. So now let's try to, I think, hover this one, and we still have the error. I believe the error, it should be come from the preset array. So let's scroll up, and as you can see the preset in here, I set the width and height to the number. So I have to change that to the string just like this. And now hopefully the error it should be gone. Great. So let's try to see in here. I'm going to refresh, just make sure everything is up to date. And then let's try to click the width 500 pixel. As you can see, the image is changed, right? Let's try to click that. And then on the element right here is basically the width is 500 pixel. That's what we set. And the height is basically 333 pixel. This basically will follow the aspect ratio from the original image. And as you can see, the file size is just 8.2 kilobyte. So let's try to change the height to 500 pixel. As you can see, now the height is 500 pixel, but the width is follow the aspect ratio and get the value 750 right here. And the file size is 14.3 kilobyte. So anyway, that's how we change the width and height. As you can see in here, we can put the pixel value. We also can put percent value as well. This is same. Width and height is just same. So in height, you have to put just h dash any value you want. So the next thing is I'm going to show you how we can change the aspect ratio. So now let's see how we can change the aspect ratio, which is we can use this tr colon er and any aspect ratio you want, but you have to put width or height basically to make this aspect ratio works. So let's go back to the code in here. Inside the preset, I'm going to put the aspect ratio. So as you can see, I paste this object that have a label right here, right? The aspect ratio is 3 to 4 and the width is 400 pixel. So let's try to see what we have. So here I'm gonna go back and then change the aspect ratio, and as you can see, this is the result basically, right? Pretty cool. So let's take a look what another thing that we can do with this image. So let me go back in here and try to click this crop right here. So let's try to see the path resize crop strategy right here. So this basically will the image is exactly 300 times 200. So we will get the image exactly same with the width and height. However, to maintain the aspect ratio and prevent cropping, so it's not gonna be cropping the image, right? But it will adding a solid color padding is added around the resized image. So let's try. I'm gonna go back to the code in here and try to put another object. I'm gonna paste this object right here, path resize. And as you can see, the way we do that is pretty simple. TR, and then we put the width and height, and then put the cm-path underscore resize. Here I'm gonna click the path resize, and this is what we have, right? But anyway, we not see any background things happen. So let's try to put, for example, background red in here. BG and then red. Let's save, and then let me click that again. As you can see, this is basically the result. So we have the red color right here. It's adding on the top and on the bottom on the image. So for example, I'm gonna change the width in here into, let me say, 12,000. Just make sure I refresh that and click the path resize again. And as you can see, this is the result, right? It's basically the padding is going to be on the left and right side. So let's try to put 1,000 maybe. Let's try to click that again. And as you can see, basically the padding is going to be on the left and right side. It's basically make sure the aspect ratio is same from the original image, but the image right here is still follow the width and height, but give this extra padding right here to match with the aspect ratio from the original image. So the documentation say you can put the padding here to whatever side you want. You can put that on the right side, for example, right here. You can use FO-left, and you can put that on the bottom side, whatever you want. It just works basically. So another thing I'm going to show you is the force crop strategy. So let me just click this C-force. So the C-force strategy is basically will ignore the original aspect ratio and force the image to exactly match your width and height, even it means stretching or squeezing it. So let me try to go back in here and try to put this force crop, and I set the width to 400 and the height is 500. Also just put the C-force right here. Let's try. I'm going to refresh, just make sure we have everything clean. Let's try to click the force crop, and as you can see, this is the result. It's basically will squeeze that image to match with the new width and height, right? So basically there's a lot of transformation you can try in here, as you can see. So I just want to show you the maybe the extra crop strategy in here. I'm gonna click that. This is the original image, and if I put cm-extract, it will get the center of the image. So let me show you right here. I'm going to add another object on this preset. So I'm gonna paste this object right here, extra crop. The way we do that is pretty simple. We have to put width and height. As you can see, in this case is 600 pixel, and put the cm-extract. This basically will extract the image from the center. Let's try here. I'm gonna go back and then try to refresh and click the extra crop, and as you can see, it's just crop the image from the center, right? That's why we have this face right here. We can also extract the image not just from the center, but from the any position. So let me show you on the documentation in here. This is basically relative focus, so you can get that from the center, top, left, bottom, right, top, left, whatever. So let's try to do with top right. So the way we do that is just put FO-top underscore right. Let's go back in here. I'm gonna say comma FO-top underscore right. So let's try to see. I'm going to click that again. As you can see, this is what we have. It's basically come from the top right side. So I'm going to make sure we have bigger size in here. Let's try to put, let's say 800 pixel, right? Let's try to click the extra crop again, and this is what we have, right? Come from the top right, basically. And if I want to get for the specific position, I can use these X and Y coordinate. Let me show you how to do that. It's also pretty simple. We have to put X and Y right here. So let's try. Here I'm going to remove the FO top right and do X to, for example, 100 pixel. And for the Y coordinate, I'm going to do 100 pixel as well. And change the width in here to, let's say, 500 pixel. Save that. Let's take a look. If I click the extra crop, this is what we have. I'm going to move to the right side so I can add more value in here, like 400. Click that again. As you can see, we have the eyes. I need more, so I can say 500. Let's try to click that, and here we go. I need to more down a little bit, so let's try to add this 200. Click that again. As you can see, I need to get the lips maybe, so it's more. I'm gonna do 400. Let's click that again, and here we go. Okay, you get the idea how to get the extract image position you want with this X and Y coordinate. So there's a lot of another feature in here, a lot of things, right? There's a fast cropping. If you have like a face image, you can use this FO-face to get the face image cropping in here. And also object aware cropping, you can crop image by the object. As you can see, this is the car and also a cat and dog as well. As you can see, it's cropping the dog, it's cropping the cat. Crazy. It's really cool. But make sure you see the supported object list. As you can see, there's a person, bicycle, car, motorcycle. There's a lot of things in here. Just make sure if you want to use object aware cropping, you see this list right here. There's a lot of things, so you can try it. There's a zoom things in here, DPR, a lot of things. So that's a lot of things. So I think that's it, guys, for this video. I hope you learned something new from this beautiful ImageKit. And yep, thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.